and it's always been shrouded in a bit of mystery. We know it's something to do with the money, but we never really know what. The whole industry's wrapped in secrecy. But all we do know for a fact is they are the power brokers. They're the ones who literally control careers. If you step on the wrong toes, you'll literally never work in this town again. So it's I mean, a lot of people who don't make
And
it in
I can't
Hollywood
tell
are.
you either. I was PH at the producer on a couple of spec commercials. I don't know what the producer did. I don't
Yeah,
know what he
he
did.
seems to. I think he's kind of like a figurehead. I mean, it's a. I mean, you do have to be. I think they buy stuff, don't they, and control the cost and tend to do organise it. So you do have to be aggressive. You have to be confident because you've got to basically deal with business people. You're kind of like the interface between the business and the art. You've got all the artists and creative people and technicians, and then you've got the money, and you need a bridge between those two. Someone who's got an eye for what sells, but they're also know a bit about the art. So that's what theoretically their position.
Yeah.
But in reality, it should be part of a team. He shouldn't have, in other words, he shouldn't control
Yeah, the
the
sole
flow of
power over
information.
everything, right?
Yeah, the control of information from one place to the other. He shouldn't control it. In other words, if he decides, I like this person better than this person, then the casting director should be able to say, no, I don't think so. The person, they're both great, but for this role, this time, this person's why we picked this person, rather than all that stuff about. But he did. I mean, there's all kinds of stories about. There's some shrouded stuff about certain really high-end movies that they still, even then, they're still keeping secrets. There's rumours about some high-end movies he was involved in, where there's some 11th hour changes in the casting because some young actress theoretically said yes. Because I mean, there was some girls who are thinking, well, I did agree for whatever reason, for career, whatever. I don't think I can justify it as assault because I don't think people will believe me. And there must have been a couple. There have been rumours of people, careers getting made. And of course, like we said, the trouble is that despite being a monster, he did make a lot of people very, very rich. He's created a lot of millionaires, literally, by making these movies. So these people are all like, they pretty much are set for life because they worked on one of his productions. That's a power in itself, So, but I think that's the root cause of it. I think we need to change the structures so that no one person has that much influence, because movies are supposed to be collaborative. I mean, like you look at each Harry Potter franchise. They seem to do a lot of things right. The kids were protected, they were looked after, they didn't become junkies or go off the rails because they were specifically looked after in a particular way to avoid that. Their feet were kept on the ground. They made them go to normal schools. And if they didn't do their homework, they get treated like everybody else. So they tried as best they could to make their lives as normal as possible.
You
But
never know.
I don't know. Oh, anyway.
Something else that I think about, like other than power,
Mhm.
is that I mean, if these people had a healthy, um, as Freud says, a healthy sexual development, they wouldn't have done this. Like even if they were in power or anything
Mm.
like that. So if they had, they wouldn't have done it. What I think is that it all begins in like the childhood. So if we are treated the way that we should, and we
Yeah.
develop, healthy, so
Yeah, these people are
healthily, yeah.
clearly
So then,
damaged, aren't they? Yeah, I see your point.
exactly.
Like I said about Spacey, why would someone like him have to do something like that to get, to get a liaison with someone? It seems crazy they would even have to. So, yeah, I mean, there is the arts. Like I said, most actors and actresses are not the most stable human beings on the planet, has to be said. I mean, they've all got egos, they've all got drive. They wouldn't be who they are. You don't get to be an A-list actor unless you've got some kind of ego to drive you to become it. You've got to
Yes.
believe in yourself. At the same time, they're massively insecure. But yeah, maybe they need to be trained. Maybe in acting school they have to do a class on psychology, a class on how to handle fame. You know, if you're insecure, you were the bullied kid in school, and suddenly everybody you meet tells you they're madly in love with you. You know, now they could do that in class, couldn't they? They could do that in acting school. They say, right, people will come in several groups. Some of them will be there because they want to use you for something. Some of them just want to bask in the glory of the reflected glory. And some of them will be genuine fans just trying to be with you. You've got to learn to tell the difference between these people or you will get into trouble. You know, and also be careful. Just because someone's in awe of you and thinks you're great does not mean they'll sleep with you.
So that we have sexual harassment in like Hollywood, but what we can do like in regular life, you have sex harassment like workplace, in college, even in school, even like like primary school or something.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, that's true. We give it everywhere.
You have cyber harassment.
Yep.
Cyber, well, we're interesting about that. I was thinking the other day about that, and I think that it's a variation of something I put on OSS. I think you should, like getting a blue tick, I think you should have to apply to get an anonymous account. If you've got a perfectly valid reason for needing one, then you can have one. I think otherwise you've got to prove who you are and register, because 99.9% of the abuse online is because people don't have to face anything. They don't have to face their friends. They don't have to face themselves, really. They can hide behind the shroud and do these horrible things. And almost every single program I've seen where they expose a troll, it's generally just a seemingly ordinary person who, when they're confronted by what they did, are generally sad about it. It's like a strange psychological twist. But if you didn't have that to hide behind, because anonymity is the key. From Wallstein down, if you can be, people either don't know who you are or don't know what you are, because let's face it, nobody really knew this man. He obviously had serious issues. Even his own brother stabbed him in the back when it came out, said he was like that his whole life. But yeah, I mean, education's the key, but also men are the problem. We can dance around this all we like. The bottom line is men have to be taught how to behave. It's clear it's not innate. If one thing's for sure in the world we've learned from all this is that it's not innate. So many people, men, get to a certain level, they just indulge themselves almost at a whim. They clearly have no idea that their boundaries aren't just there and bits of paper for them to dodge round. They do have ramifications what they're doing to people. So there's an empathy lack there. There's an ego. Generally, like Sanishta was saying, it comes from people. Most of these people are insecure. Their egos are actually tiny. They pretend to be these big monsters. But, you know, if you have to drug people, you have to bully people to spend time with you, you have to intimidate people to do what you want, because nobody will do it when you ask them to, then you've got issues. And like Agnes said, that's in any walk of life. You get people like that everywhere. But the indulgence of it is the key. The fact that people take it almost as some inevitable part of life, which it clearly isn't. This is not acceptable.
You must actually educate people, not only men, because trust me, women can be sometimes even worse than men.
True. I mean, mostly we deal with men because it seems to be. Well, maybe it is social. Maybe it's like the power. Maybe the men and women would be the same. But the fact is, most men will find some kind of support, provided they don't do anything really horrendous. For example, if they kiss somebody at the Christmas party or something like that, most men will find some kind of support for that action. Whereas women doing that, other women are less likely to go along with it because they think it's not a good thing. So there's kind of a social conditioning as well to everything. But how you get, I mean, it's not difficult though. This is the thing. We can tie ourselves into intellectual knots here. This is not a complex issue. Everybody knows what the rules are. The ones who don't know what the rules are nuts, and most of them wouldn't be skilled enough to manipulate people to get very far in their industry anyway. You have to be able to get on with people to a good extent to be successful in any line of work. So they have the skill set to get on with people. They just have to be made to realise that they can't cross personal boundaries with impunity. And I don't believe most of them don't know they're crossing the line at some point. They might think they've only gone a few feet into the line and can pull themselves back, and it's not such a big deal, which is what I was saying earlier about levels. The levels thing annoys me. Someone says they're abused, they're abused. How you punish the person depends on how abused they are, but the abuse itself is sufficient for that. Like one woman was going on the other day, but she was a reporter. She worked in Westminster all the time. Because he goes, one guy touched my knee, I just slapped away and told him where to go because I was raised by feminists. I said, well, lucky you, but a lot of women weren't, and they don't know how to handle that situation. One, they don't know if it'll have ramifications, and two, they might well be afraid. I mean, somebody like Wallstein's a big guy. If he decided to hit any of these young actresses, he would kill them. He's a big guy, and he's known for his aggression. So I think we have to have the culture where the abusers are the ones that are looking over their shoulder all the time and not the victims. They have to be the ones scared for the business, like they are now. I mean, I don't know how long it lasts, that's what we're saying. Right now, if you're one of these abusers, you're cowering under the table because it's coming to light. People are gunning for you now. And if you've done something, chances are someone's going to be brave enough to come forward and say so. And then you'll have to answer for it. Whereas before, that was never a consideration. So I hope we can keep the momentum going so that we don't slip back and we don't read another of these cases. I mean, the Crosby thing, for example, is a good example. That kind of came and went with the weather. There wasn't any real... I mean, most of us were stunned. And, but the outrage wasn't enough, I didn't think. This guy was a monster. Jimmy Savile in Britain did have that level. But that's just because he moved into the upper echelons. He got in touch with royalty and power brokers, and so he could have hurt careers. But he was the same as Wallstein. He basically, they gave him a backdoor key to a mental hospital where they kept young troubled women. A backdoor key where no surveillance cameras. They gave this man a key. So he could turn up any time of the day or night, open the door, walk through the corridors, and the nurses and doctors just saw him, waved to him. Any time of day or night. Fame and power, it is corrupting. So, but let's just hope the momentum keeps going and we make sure that this doesn't just become scalps. They don't just line all these guys up, call them Voldemort. We've got all the Death Eaters, everything's great now, we go back to paradise. Exactly. And the system creates, because the system created these people. As Shanista said, a lot of it's psychological. These people are predisposed to go down these roads. If they found an industry or any kind of system where they can flourish, they'll be attracted to that and do it to fulfill these inadequacies they have. So that's where we have to work. Not the individuals per se, but the systems that allow them to function that way. That's where the change comes in. And then maybe the next actor or actress starting out in a career won't think that the first thing they have to do is sleep with some other guy before you get a foot in the door. You're into the casting couch. And that's a term that everyone made jokes about and had thought it died, but obviously it's alive and well. Wow. There endeth the sermon. So what's next then? What we got then? What opinions? Who thinks it'll be the end of this? Do we think we're dealing with the problem correctly?
No,
right now, that's who's try to punish is Hollywood, because they don't work. They just do the punishment, and we don't hear nothing from like law enforcement. We don't see like nothing that this case go to the court. We don't hear even like do this woman's something from the suffering, like I don't know, probably half of them, maybe not with Weinstein, but I can feeling now that is lots of coming out, but now you even don't know what is true and what's not, because half of that can be like not true, because like women decide, oh, it's like big hot topic right now, sexual harassment.
Jump on it.
So Yeah, so maybe I tell that
Well,
this producer harassed me and I get some money from it because
this is it. Yeah, well, money's the key, though. Maybe they shouldn't be.
yeah.
I mean, these people should actually just do the prison. I mean, like I said, Netflix has been great. They've actually done something. They've cut ties with Spacey. Not only have they stopped House of Cards, he did another program with them, which they've now shelved. But the difficulty is, can they come back? Like, the systems thing, look at Roman Polanski. He basically was sleeping with 13-year-old girls, got caught, run away to Europe, and kept making movies in Europe, and still a famous director to this day. He's still a member of the Academy, by the way. And he just came back to America a little while ago and did some deal when the administration changed, and basically got back to the country. There was some other director, someone must mention, another producer-director, did something similar, went away for a year or two and came back. So it's the systems have to change. These guys can't come back. There's nothing for them to come back to, basically. But I think it's not something you can get. I mean, it's like they would have to prove somehow that they are no longer indulging in that behaviour, and they'd have to keep proving it.
Well,
They'd
the
be
law,
probation for life,
the
basically.
law must change because I don't give a fuck. Like this person is famous and this person is like Oscar, like he won 2 or 3 or 13 Oscars, and
Definitely.
they're supposed to treat every single person the same thing, the
They
same
need to be
way. So.
prosecuted. They need to be
Yeah, they
prosecuted.
need to be prosecuted because I know like Hollywood do the punishment. They throw them from this. They cancel the TV shows with them or whatever.
That ain't gonna
Nobody
matter.
gonna
They already
be
have enough money.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
Wallstein's never going to have to work. He didn't have to work again,
Yeah,
ever.
but I know it's for them. It's gonna be punishment that they're gonna have problem now to actually find like some movie. And
Well, that's it. It's the
make some
ego, isn't
movie.
it? It's the ego. Weinstein's just a
Because they
walking.
lost the trust right now. So
Oh,
which is
yeah. They're not going to get it back.
But so what? But what about this woman who was like?
Well, this is the thing. Even if he goes to jail, or whatever jail he does, whatever happens to him, he'll probably get hit by a load of civil suits, but the civil suits will get shelved because of the actual criminal prosecution. And then he could do a Polanski. He could jump in a plane, fly to somewhere there's no extradition, and live like a prince. Remember, a lot of people owe him a lot of favours. He's still a powerful man. That's what we've got to remember. Power doesn't evaporate overnight. There'll be people who owe him both financial and other types of favours, which he'll call in. Because he made a lot of people very rich, and a lot of these people want to stay rich, and if he's cut off at the head, they might not end up that way. So as I said, it's the systems we have to address. The individuals are a symptom. They're just some guy. He's worse than most, better than some. There's always going to be a middle ground. But Hollywood particularly is forgiving. Politics
They can't
these
take care
days.
of it themselves. If they keep taking care of it themselves, they're going to keep having the same problem. It has to be.
These external body
taken care of. Somebody has to be taken down.
External.
Right.
And they have to be external. Yeah. So they have a separate group, not necessarily in the industry, a separate body, and they decide. So if someone gets done in a drunken fumble and it goes wrong and it becomes a case, that's settled out of court, whatever they want to do. Their body has to review that with the victim and say, what do you think? Is this guy, was it what he said? Was it what happened? Or is this really some abuser? And then they decide whether to let them back in. Now, the trouble is with these things is we tend to forget, because it's a movie industry, it's an art form, that it is in fact an industry first. And for all Wallstein and Polanski's faults, they were very good at what they did, and they made people a lot of money. So it's a bit like a sportsman. They don't say, right, this guy's horrible, we don't want him doing this. But do we have anybody else with his skill set that can save our movie? That's always going to be the equation they're looking at. Now, if you're a mediocre director and you start doing this, you're not going to last a minute. But we've just got to get to the fact that maybe we have to live with the fact that some great movies are not going to get made because the people who make them are just monsters and we don't want anything to do with them. But that's easier said than done, because movies are not just art, they're money, and a great deal of it. And a great deal of money can do a great deal of things. So that's the issue I've got with it. I think there's a lot of scalps, a lot of people getting brutalised. And yeah, it's shattering our illusions. It's getting to the point now where we're running out of heroes. I mean, if you happen to be someone who likes men heroes, you're in trouble, aren't you? Because they all seem to be. I mean, Alec Baldwin came out and said that he was using bullying and admitted it before somebody could say it. But then you get cynical. You think, is he admitting it because he's truly repentant? Or is he admitting it because he doesn't want someone else to come out? Yeah. You think, well, why didn't you bloody admit this a year ago, 6 months ago, yesterday? Because you were hoping you wouldn't have to. And the minute you start thinking like that, you need to be dealt with. You know, and all those things like times used to be different. Well, yeah, we used to have gladiators as well. What difference does that make? You know, we used to have slavery, and when we see slavery now, people still go to jail. So, but that is the bit we're going to be careful of. A lot of the flag waving and a lot of heads are rolling, but the money machine still runs the same way. Companies still have I mean, like, for example, Wallstein's company's been bought by an equities partners firm. Equity partners companies buy high profit things, hang on to them for a short time, milk them for a bit of money, then they sell them on to someone who knows what they're doing. So in other words, these companies have been put on ice for a while until this gets sorted out, then it'll spring back to life. But does that mean it'll be operating exactly the same way minus their head? But does that mean the same people who let this man abuse women for decades is still working there? So there's a lot things need to change, and they need to change from the bottom up so that people can do that. And it does need to be that people need to come forward and say, or stand up. But then they need to feel supported. If a woman walks into a casting and there's nobody there but a camera and some guy in his underpants, then she should be able to turn around and say no and not fear that she won't be able to get another job. And that only happens when the system's in place for it. And currently it's not. I mean, you can't impeach a producer, can you? Like, the Academy had to vote to get rid of Wallstein. Why did they vote? Who was it that was against it? Which was a good point, you know, because they can't, because there isn't an easy way to oust powerful people like that. I mean, Kevin Spacey's an example of how it could be done, but that's only because Netflix was very proactive and didn't dissemble, didn't try and hang on to their cash cow. They realised that their user base is made up of liberal-minded people who like good programs. They make a lot of intersectional programming. It's their audience, so they don't want to associate with it. So they cut the ties and just dropped him. But did anybody in Netflix know he was doing this? Do we know? You know, what happened? Why did this guy decide to just make the revelation when he did? So it's a tricky one, but I don't know how you do it either. It's not a simple thing. I'm not sure how we go about it. Because as I said, there's a lot of money in movies, and anything with a lot of money is subject to a certain amount of corruption. But in order to change the system, you've got to change it so that movies still get made. Because if they don't, they won't sell tickets, they won't make any money, and the whole thing becomes moot. So, you know, Wallsteins and the creatures like him are always going to be there, but they need to make sure there's no system for them to operate in. So there's a lot. It's like politics. Anybody, it comes to entitlement. Any job you've got where people treat you better than other people, you get problems. You get real issues with that kind of thing. Because otherwise you can't get the thing off the ground. You can't get a project off the ground